What's going on, people? Welcome to episode 2 or part 2 of the St. Maurice lie. Now, in this series, we take a look at portraits and statues of noble looking black men in Europe that have been purposely, erroneously, falsely identified as St. Maurice, and we take those portraits and statues and see if we can correctly identify who they actually are in those portraits. Now, with that being said, brothers and sisters, if you haven't, please go watch part 1 of the St. Maurice lie in order to gain context going into this video, which is part 2, especially for those of you who do not know who St. Maurice is or if you've never heard of that name. So with that being said, some formalities out of the way. As usual, brothers and sisters, if you haven't, subscribe, make sure you like the video, leave a comment, because all of that helps the video get pushed out. Yada yada yada. Let's move on. Okay, so now at the end of part 1, I stated that I'm going to show you guys the real portrait, for those of you who haven't seen it before, the real portrait of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, as well as some more Holy Roman Emperors, some dukes, some kings and princes surrounding the Holy Roman Empire, because like I stated in part 1, the Holy Roman Empire in and of itself was ruled over, presided over, and started by so-called black people. Yes, you heard me correctly. So, I want you brothers and sisters to now direct your attention to the man that you see on the screen. Now, brothers and sisters, this is the actual real portrait of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, which is held at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. Now, this portrait, brothers, has now been falsely identified, of course, as St. Maurice in the past. It's been identified as portrait of an African man in Renaissance Europe, but now it's been identified as Christopher Lee Moore, who is said to be the African bodyguard of Charles V. Brothers, those are all lies and narratives they concoct to try and explain off that this is not actually Charles V himself, because they retitle a lot of these portraits that get released to the public. But hold that thought there for now, brothers and sisters. We're going to come back to this portrait. Okay, so before we get back to the portrait, it's very important for brothers and sisters to understand a lot of these museums and institutions, they have a lot of the real artifacts hidden away in their private archives, in their basements, in their warehouses. All these like elite level billionaires / millionaires have them in their private collections. It's very important for brothers and sisters to understand this. Now, I did a video titled When Black People Ruled Europe, where I showed the real images of King George III of Great Britain and his wife, Queen Charlotte, as seen here in the thumbnail. So if you want, you brothers and sisters could go check that video out. But I say that to say this. As you can see, King George on the right there is held. It's held in this museum here, the Royal Albert Museum, and it's now been falsely titled and identified as portrait of a man in red coat. It was falsely identified in the past as Alluda Equino or Equiano, and portrait of an African one more time. Because like I keep mentioning, brothers and sisters, when they release the real artifacts to the public, they have to give them false identities. But we're just going to read this here. So the Royal Albert Memorial Museum and Art Gallery, or RAMM in short, is a museum and art gallery in Exeter, Devon, the largest in the city. It holds significant and diverse collections in areas such as zoology, anthropology, and fine art, local and foreign archaeology and geology. Altogether, the RAMM holds over 1 million, of which a small percentage are on permanent public display. So brothers, could you imagine all of the hidden artifacts that they got hidden, like I said, in their private collections that are not on public display. So one more time, bro, it's very important to understand this. They purposely hide artifacts, sculptures, monuments, statues, frescoes, relics, what have you, from the public to control the narrative of history. But of course, for this video, this is in the context of art, portraits, and paintings. Okay, so now, brothers, the Smithsonian Institution. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, I'm just going to read the first paragraph. So, about the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Institution is the world's largest museum, education, and research complex with 21 museums, 14 education and research centers, and the National Zoo, shaping the future by preserving heritage, discovering new knowledge, and sharing our resources with the world. So, in other words, brothers, it's the world's largest museum. So, keep that in mind. So, I asked ChatGPT. One second. So, I asked ChatGPT, does the Smithsonian Institution have millions of hidden artifacts? So it reads, yes, the Smithsonian Institution does have millions of artifacts that are not on public display. And this is entirely normal for a museum of its size and scope. So here's what you should know. Scale of the collection. The Smithsonian holds over 155 million objects, brothers. I'm going to read it again. Holds over 155 million objects across its 21 museums, galleries, and the National Zoo. Of those, brothers, less than 1% are on display at any given time. The rest are kept in storage. Okay, brothers, one more time. The rest are kept in storage, used for research, preservation, or rotated into exhibitions. Why are so many hidden? So the bullet points: space constraints. There's simply not enough room to display everything. Preservation. Many items are fragile and can be damaged by light, air, or handling. Relevance. Not all items fit current exhibitions or public interest. Research. Some items are primarily of scholarly value, not general public interest. Now, brothers, all of these are true, but one major point ChatGPT forgot to list is that they purposely hide artifacts to control the control the narrative of history. One more time, brothers. 155 million objects, less than 1% of those are on public display. The rest, brothers, are kept in storage. So could you imagine, brothers, the monuments, the statues, the relics, the sculptures, the paintings, the frescoes, the hieroglyphs that they have of world history just in general concerning so-called black people? And I'm talking about all dark nations of people. We'll talk about Hamitic, Shemitic, Japhetic races of people that they have in the storage collections that they purposely don't release to the public, and they do that to maintain the whitewashed narrative of world history. So always keep that in mind, brothers and sisters. They purposely hide artifacts. Okay, so now, brothers and sisters, back to the portrait of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. Now, I think I'm going to make a separate video dedicated on this portrait and going into more detail. But as you can see, brothers, to the right hand side, they have the portrait of Charles V here, now dubbed as Portrait of an African Man, Christopher Lee Moore ? Now, brothers and sisters, do you honestly think they don't know who this is? But let's read on. So it reads, the portrait of an African man, also known as Portrait of a Moor, is a painting by the Dutch Renaissance painter Jan Mostaert. Mostaert probably made the painting between 1525 and 1530 or slightly earlier. The exact subject of the painting has long been unclear, although numerous ideas have been put forward, including that the, including that the depicted figure is a soldier, a nobleman, or Saint Maurice. There they go again, brothers and sisters. Like I mentioned, it was dubbed in the past Saint Maurice because they can't help themselves. Anytime they see a noble looking black man, it doesn't matter where it is in Europe, a portrait or a statue, they have to label it, falsely title it as Saint Maurice. But hey, this is why I'm making this series titled The Saint Maurice Lie. So let's continue. So the portrait is significant in that it may portray the earliest surviving portrait of a specific black man in European painting, though Saint Maurice and Balthazar of the Three Kings or the biblical Magi had been long usually portrayed as Africans. And as we read this, brother, it's just going to be a whole bunch of narrative. So if it is a portrait of a specific real individual, it appears to be the earliest known such painting of a black man in European painting. So they say, brothers, so they say. So an African man, a portrait by Albert Dürer, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, in the Albertina in Vienna might be earlier, with a possible date of 1508, but it is a charcoal drawing, as we can see to the left. Now, as you can see, brothers, they've dubbed this head of an African. Most likely, brothers, this is somebody of nobility also. But as you can see, just like they titled this head of an African, they titled Charles V Portrait of an African. You start to notice the theme, brothers? But let's read on. So the Rijksmuseum, who own the painting, have said that it might be Christopher the Moor, a black archer at the court of the Habsburg Emperor Charles V. Hey, I guess they cracked it, brothers. Let's read on. This theory could be supported by the badge of the Virgin on his cap, which would be a souvenir from a pilgrimage to Heli. He has also been said to be a member of the entourage of Margaret of Austria, Duchess of Savoy. She was also a so-called black woman, by the way. At her court in Mechelen. The posture, clothing, and other details. One second. Sorry about that. So the posture, clothing, and other details could indicate service at a European court and an adaptation to their norms. The English historian Kate Lowe therefore argues he is a nobleman. He's more than a nobleman, brothers. He's the Holy Roman Emperor. But let's read on. In the service or a visitor to the court at Mechelen, or such a visitor himself. Other scholars suggest that the insignia on his hat and bag may indicate, brothers, possible Spanish or Portuguese origins. You want to know why that is? Because this is Holy Roman Emperor Charles V of the House of Habsburg. Okay, brothers and sisters, but all of this here just to write off that this is Charles V. All of this narrative. So one more time, brothers and sisters, never underestimate the lengths and the false fables and stories they will go to write off these noble black men in Europe, okay, these portraits and these statues. But like I said, I think I'm going to make a separate video going into more detail on this portrait. Okay, so now brothers and sisters, if for whatever reason you're still not convinced that that was Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, here is the Inca King list from Lima, Peru. Now if we zoom in here, as we can see, brothers, the Inca kings also seem to be so-called black. Interesting, isn't it? But brothers and sisters, there's somebody at the bottom right we need to analyze. So we zoom in here. As we can see, there's somebody here. Now let's bring it up clearer. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, at the bottom it states Carlos Quinto. Now who is Carlos Quinto? Carlos Quinto, Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. Brothers and sisters, it doesn't get more clearer than that, man. Let's show it again. See, there he is on the Inca King list. And here are both of his images side by side. One more time to the left. It's a commissioned portrait held at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. And to the right, it's Charles V on the Inca King list. And as you can see, brothers and sisters, he is a so-called black man. So now, brothers, I'm going to show you some images of the nobility surrounding the Holy Roman Empire. And I'm only going to show a few because I want to use these images for separate videos in the future. So we're just going to briefly go through them. So first up, this is coinage showcasing Ferdinand I and his son Maximilian II. Okay, so now brothers, these are Dukes of Saxony, Christian II, Johann George I, and August. Okay, so now brothers and sisters, this is an image on a coinage showcasing Duke Friedrich VIII of Saxony. Okay, so now brothers, this is an image of Philip I. Okay, so now brothers, this is an image on coinage showcasing another elector of Saxony, this being Johann George II. Okay, so now, brothers, this is an image showcasing Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II. So now, brothers and sisters, this is another image on coinage showcasing Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand III. And the last image I'm going to showcase for now, brothers and sisters, this is an etching showcasing Holy Roman Emperor Leopold I. And that's just a few, brothers and sisters. Like I mentioned, I want to save these for future videos. But one more time, the Holy Roman Empire in and of itself was ruled over, started and presided over so-called black people, okay? The emperors, the dukes, the electors, what have you, were all so-called black people. So now we're on the Quora page known as the Swarthy Kings, and one of the contributors is Christopher Mansfield. Now he goes about identifying some of these statues and these busts and these portraits of noble looking black people in Europe. Now sometimes I forget I even bookmark pages like this because sometimes when you're making a video or you're doing research, you stumble across information that you wasn't even looking for, and you just save a lot of these to your hard drive or bookmark them, and sometimes I forget they exist, but that's over here nor there, I'm rambling. Like I said, brothers, he goes about identifying some of these statues and these portraits of noble looking so-called black people in Europe. So we're going to take a look at a statue. So this is the statue in question that we're going to take a look at. Now, of course, you already know they're going to call it Saint Maurice. But as it reads here, so are the statues of black men, dressed as knights, really Saint Maurice or hereditary princes of Europe? The following statue, or a disclaimer, I'm not going to be able to pronounce a lot of these German locations correctly, okay? My pronunciation is going to be way off. So for those of you who happen to speak German, you're probably going to laugh at my pronunciation. I'm just going to say them how they are spelt. So let me start again. So the following statue resides at St. George Church in Lagen, Weddingen, or Langen, Weddingen, however you pronounce it. Probably butchered both of them, but Germany. It was sculpted in 1710 by the German artist Michael Hellwig and is today labeled Saint Maurice. Like I said, brothers, you already know what they're going to do. Michael Hellwig created various wood and stone carvings for regions throughout East Westphalia and Lower Saxony. Many of his works are still located in places associated with the former Prince Archbishopric of Magdeburg, such as Sommersdorf, Hundingsburg's Castle, Falkenberg, and Lagenwedingen. Lagenwedingen, first mentioned in the 10th century in a gift from Holy Roman Emperor Otto I to the Mauritius Monastery in Magdeburg. Archbishopric and Duchy of Magdeburg, centered around the city of Magdeburg, was an administrative territory that was the Archdiocese of Magdeburg from 969 to 1552 and the Prince Archbishopric of Magdeburg from 1180 to 1680. In the Treaty of Westphalia from 1648, it was agreed that the Brandenburg rulers would receive the Archbishopric of Magdeburg once the reigning archbishop died. This came to pass in 1680, and the great elector Frederick William of Brandenburg recognized the territory into the Duchy of Magdeburg, where the Brandenburg electors would reign as hereditary dukes. In 1701, when the Duchy of Prussia was elevated to a kingdom, Frederick I of Prussia made the Duchy of Magdeburg part of the Kingdom of Prussia. In the above graphic, the Archbishopric of Magdeburg attached to the Bishopric of Halberstadt can be seen in solid pink between the electorate of Brandenburg and the county of Hohenstein. As you can see, this is the map he provided with, and as you can see to the bottom left, the territories. So identification. So with this information he provided with, he's now going to go about identifying who this actually is in this statue. The statue in question by Michael Hellwig, that was created in the Kingdom of Prussia's Magdeburg territory, is a depiction of Philip William, Margrave of Brandenburg, Schweiz. He was Prince of Prussia and the half-brother of Frederick I of Prussia, and so given the title Royal Highness. Prince Philip William at age 41. This statue was created by Michael Hellwig in 1710. From 1692 till 1711, Philip William was the governor of Magdeburg. He served as general in battles against France and was promoted to Inspector General of the Artillery in 1697. In 1699, Philip William married Princess Johanna. Now, I think that's actually pronounced Johanna. I think the J is silent, but I'm just going to say Johanna. So, married Princess Johanna Charlotte of Anhalt-Dessau, the daughter of John George II, Prince of Anhalt-Dessau. So one more time, brothers, he identified this statue as Prince Philip William. But of course, this has now been falsely identified, purposely falsely identified as Saint Maurice. But here's the statue here of Prince Philip William at age 41. One more time, brothers and sisters, these statues, these portraits are not of Saint Maurice. They're the nobility in Europe. So, family connections. Philip William of Brandenburg, Schweiz, was the uncle of Frederick William I of Prussia. In the above comparison, you can clearly see an extremely close family resemblance. As you will continuously see from these posts, the truth in human history is being hidden in plain sight. Now, as you can see from these busts here, he identified them. To the left is Frederick William I, King of Prussia, Prince Elector of Brandenburg, and in the middle, the statue that we just took a look at, is Philip William, Margrave of Brandenburg. Now, of course, brothers, they can't tell the public that, so the narrative they try to run on these busts is that these are symbolic of primitive Africans. Yes, brothers, I kid you not. Now he goes in more detail on this erroneous explanation, which I'm most likely going to bring out in another video. But for those of you who want to read this page in your own time, one more time, it's called The Swarthy Kings on Europe, and it's on Quora, and it's done by Christopher Mansfield. But one more time, brothers and sisters, I'm going to say this over and over again. These statues, these busts, these paintings are not of St. Maurice. They're not random Africans. They're not slaves, what have you. They're the nobility spread across Europe. Hopefully, that was an edifying lesson for you, brothers and sisters. Now, for those of you who wish to financially support me and this channel, you can support me via YouTube memberships, PayPal, or Patreon. With that being said, giving all praises to the Most High Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, deuces.